What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Bunch of stuff to talk about today. Found out the new Zelda is already under development, which is really cool. Found out some more interesting stuff about Wolfenstein 2 on the Switch, some release dates, and then some more info on Sea of Thieves. Has me a little concerned. But for now, let's get into it, guys. So Zelda Breath of the Wild, won Game of the Year, all kinds of awards. Great game that's come out, obviously, throughout 2017. Really set the mark for the Switch right off the bat on release day. Sure, it was also on the Wii U, but people bought the Switch because it was a portable experience that was massive, and it was Zelda. So it gets the awards, and now we found out that it looks like they've at least moved on to development for the new game. A lot of us figured that they were going to be spending quite a bit of time on the DLC, which it seems like they did. They probably spent most of the year to try to finish out that DLC, but I have a feeling some of the core components, at least the core developers, were already working on a new Zelda game, and it looks like today, at least, we did get confirmation about that. So what happens is there was a Zelda book released the other day in Japan only, and I saw this on Twitter under a handle of Source Gaming. They talked about a translated part of the book that talks about Aonuma, Mr. Aonuma himself, saying that they've already started development of the next Zelda. Now, the big question here is, well, what is the next Zelda going to be? Is it going to run with like the Breath of the Wild engine, or are they working to maybe move on to something brand new specifically for the Switch? Because if you remember, Breath of the Wild was developed with Wii U first in mind, and then they moved it over to the Switch. I mean, remember originally you would actually use the Wii U gamepad, and then they took that away because they had to move it to the Switch, a system that was bound for much more success than the Wii U saw. I mean, the Wii U struggled heavily. I am glad they still released it on the Wii U because I think they at least owed that to the adopters of the Wii U, because there weren't that many. So they at least needed to give them that as the big send-off for the system. But it's clear now the Switch is much different than the Wii U in terms of architecture and makeup and everything, so I would love to see what they can do with the Switch now. Most people, of course, are also going to say, how do you top Breath of the Wild? Honestly, I don't know. I mean, they say they have tons of ideas, and that's not an issue, but man, Breath of the Wild was such a departure from Zelda, and it got such high praise and remarks. I don't really know how you top that kind of a game, but there are some cool things I think they could do here, because things like the top-down Zelda aspect is kind of being left behind now that the 3DS is kind of being left behind, or at least we think it will be with Pokemon now moving to the Switch. So where does a game like a top-down Zelda go? I thought A Link Between Worlds was a phenomenal Zelda game. I would have played that on the Switch and paid full price for it, and if they move something like that over to the Switch, not necessarily the same game, but a new game with that kind of aspect, you know, and everything, I would love to see that. I would pay full price if it was that similar concept, but more fleshed out with the graphical abilities of the Switch compared to the 3DS. Now, other people may not want to go back to that after doing something like Breath of the Wild because they're so used to this big open world, and I can understand that. But do they really keep releasing the same type of game like Breath of the Wild, or would you rather them take that wild departure? Because there were people drastically concerned with what Breath of the Wild was going to turn out to be after they said we're breaking away from this mold of, you know, set amount of dungeons and you do it in a certain order. It's open world. You go wherever you want. And it turns out to be what many believe the best Zelda game ever made. For me, it's hard to say, really, because let's say they keep the Breath of the Wild engine around for one more game and they do almost a direct sequel. Maybe not quite, but it's a similar, it's in the similar world and everything. They could probably get that game out much sooner than if they basically scrapped that whole thing and moved on with a brand new engine, everything, because, well, at least with that you have the core mechanics set up and then you build on top of it. In fact, they could make probably Breath of the Wild but better if they have more time like that, and it could come out sooner. It could be out like 2019 or 2020, whereas if they scrap it and move on from that, it could be one of the last games on the Switch. I mean, we could look at like a 2022 release date. That would be quite a while to go without any kind of Zelda game, since the 3DS, they are moving on from it. I'm curious what you guys think, though. What do you think they're going to do with this? Do you think this Zelda game that's already in development, do you think it's going to be a brand new Zelda game that has a massive departure from Breath of the Wild, or do you think they'll keep that engine around for one more game, more like a Majora's Mask style to Ocarina, for example? Maybe something like that. I don't know. I want to hear your thoughts, though, guys, and let me know what you think about a top-down Zelda game. Do you think that still has a place in gaming with really their main home console, the Switch? From there, let's jump over to Sea of Thieves. Now, I have not participated in any of the alpha at all, just to make sure I can report freely on it and talk about it freely without having to worry about any embargoes, so we're clear on that. But they did release a video talking about the progression of Sea of Thieves, something I was concerned about, because while the game itself, in terms of being one big adventure, is great, I was trying to figure out why you were going on these adventures. What was the point of doing it, right? Why were you going out into the ocean and trying to find treasure and go on these crazy adventures with your friends? Was there some kind of progression system in place? According to them, there is, but after watching the video, I'm still not sure why you're going out to do this. According to them, there are several different traders that you build up reputation with. You go on quests for them, you bring them treasure, for example, and then you get things from them, and you build up reputation to then get better quests to then go on more adventures. There apparently is no real skill difference in terms of leveling, abilities, weapons. It seems like it's fair across the board, so you and your friend can go out at any time, which concerns me to a degree. These quests are called voyages. You basically get them, they're little parchments that are rolled up, and then you increase the value of them essentially and what rewards you get from them. Unfortunately, it seems like a lot of the rewards that they're talking about more so reflect your cosmetics than, say, your ship that you build up, your weapons. Apparently a cutlass that you get, it's the same as the one you'll get towards the end of the game, if there is an end to it. And that's a little concerning. I was hoping that weapons would be upgraded, you'd find better weapons, and it almost like an MMO style game, almost MMORPG. You level up your character, you level up your abilities, maybe you level up your ship and you get new cannons and new navigation systems. I don't know. I was hoping it would be a little more, but based on that video, now I'm very concerned because I'm really worried that if this game doesn't work out, that Rare might actually be in trouble in some way, shape, or form with Microsoft because they haven't done much since being obtained by Microsoft for quite a bit of money. And if this doesn't perform, I could see Microsoft really, I guess, pulling the rug out from under him and getting rid of them. Next up, we had a few games announced for the Switch. Two of them, actually. One of them was, of course, from Bandai. We talked about how Liam Robertson put out a tweet saying that there was one little surprise, little special surprise that people would like, but it wasn't anything massive, and I think this is it. I'm talking about Pac-Man Championship Edition 2+, announced for the Switch, coming out February 22nd, 2018. It was out in 2016 on the PS4 and the Xbox One. However, the Switch version will have an exclusive 2-player local co-op mode and special co-op abilities. I really like the idea of Pac-Man coming over. I actually liked Championship. I know a lot of people didn't like Championship 2, and I actually didn't get it. I just played the first one a good bit back in the day, and I liked it, and I could see it working out really well with like this local co-op addition to the Switch, because of course the Switch with split Joy-Cons or just same screen co-op seems to be a new trend for it, really. I mean, it really is setting this trend for you and a friend can come over, sit down, and play in front of the same TV or the Switch in tabletop mode. I like that because I do kind of miss couch co-op games that seem to be kind of going away for more of the games as a service, always online. Everyone needs their own TV and their own system to play together. And then to help out really the early 2018 stages for the Switch, Dragon Quest Builders also got a release date. This was done by Nintendo's Twitter handle, 2/9/18 or February 9th, 2018. It will come out. Again, this will be helping to really bolster that beginning 2018 lineup that I'm sure that they will continue to pack in. I think either Yoshi or Kirby might be early 2018, and we'll probably hear more about that at the Nintendo January Direct that we all know at this point. They might as well just announce it. We all know it's basically showing up at some point. They'll probably announce it like 2 days before or something like usual, but we expect really Yoshi or Kirby to be there, and then we have some of these really third-party games showing up. Payday 2 will be there in February. Bayonetta, while that's more first-party, still is a AA game, just to kind of go alongside whatever Nintendo decides to throw to us in January and then February, then leading into March and April. And then our last bit of news, let's talk about Wolfenstein 2 on the Nintendo Switch, because I see a lot of people say they're waiting for this game to come out, and that's why they passed up on Wolfenstein 2 on the Xbox One and the PS4. To a degree, I can understand that, because some people like the ability to have a portable game. That's perfectly fine, I think. I do still think if you're just going to play it docked, you might as well just buy Wolfenstein 2 now, because obviously the better experience is going to be on something like the PS4, the Xbox One, or the PC. PC probably being your best shot at having a really good looking game at 60 frames. But if you are waiting for the portable nature, or maybe the Switch really is your main system, this game is coming out sometime in 2018, and we did get at least more information about who is porting this game, and guess what? It's Panic Button. Now, of course, we know Panic Button from porting Doom and Rocket League. Doom was under some criticism, obviously, because it was half the frame rate and a much lower resolution. But still, the fact that it was running on a Tegra was pretty cool to see. I mean, guys, that's from really, at this point, a tablet processor is now running Doom, a 2016 game built on their latest id Tech engine. So here we go. Panic Button shows up, and this was confirmed to us by Machine Games senior game designer Andres Ojafors, saying, "That's a collaboration with a different studio that we're working together with. It's the same as the Doom studio. They're experts at the Switch, and now they're experts with the id Tech 6 engine. So we work with them, and the Doom version turned out to be really good on the Switch, so I think Wolfenstein will be the same." Machine Games, of course, are the developers of Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus. Of course, Bethesda publishes and everything, but Machine Games developed it. So now they're going to really get a collaboration going with Panic Button, which I'm sure has been happening already. Panic Button, of course, the one thing I'll give them credit for here, they at least are getting a lot of experience working with the Switch, porting games to the Switch. So they seem to be like the one company that everyone's calling, saying, "Hey, can you help us port this game over?" And while some people have been critical of some of their decisions, specifically lowering resolution heavily, and really dropping texture quality, really doing everything they can to come in at a certain frame rate, I do feel like the longer a game system is out and the more really experience you have with it, probably the better you'll get in results. Now, of course, Wolfenstein 2 is more demanding than Doom, so that's where it's really going to be interesting. How is it going to fare between the two? Is it going to be better than Doom because they have more experience, or will it be about the same? I do expect a 30 frames per second experience with Wolfenstein. I would just like to see them get a little higher in the resolution, and I would like to see the textures really be a little clearer. They got very blurry. It was very clear that Doom, while it was a good portable experience at times, if you wanted to play docked, honestly, the PS4, Xbox One, and even the PC version are going to give you a much better experience. Get the PC version if you can at this point. It's cheap, it really is, and it runs on even lower end hardware. So while I get the Switch version has its place, I do hope that Wolfenstein 2 sells well on it, because it just didn't sell well in general compared to what they were probably expecting, especially since it was just a straight single-player, story, narrative-based game with I think, great-looking visuals. It was a zany, crazy story. I will say that. I was playing through it, and I couldn't believe some of the stuff that was happening, but it's still fun. It's not meant to be taken seriously. So while I hope they do a good job, I don't know if it's going to turn out any better than Doom. So keep that in mind. If you're waiting for it, and you want it to be better than Doom, it's Panic Button. I don't think it'll be any different than what we've seen with Doom. So there we go. We can expect that sometime next year. Better earlier than later, I will say that. If it comes out November, a full year or so even, after Wolfenstein 2 came out on the other systems, that might be a little late. I'd rather it come out like April, in May maybe? I don't know. We'll see though. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for Newswave today. Make sure you liked the video, guys, if you enjoyed it. Helps out with search results and everything. Hit the thumbs down button if you didn't. Definitely leave comments down below for all the stuff we talked about. Let me know about Zelda, guys. I need to know if we're getting it sooner or later. Is this a long-term project for them, or are they going to use the Breath of the Wild engine that they've already built, maybe more adapted to the Switch for better resolutions and everything, frame rates, and then heavily work on a new world? Or maybe it's an offshoot of the same world we already played. You know, maybe it's like a Majora's Mask where they introduce a whole town and everything. Maybe not a time-traveling mechanic, but you get the idea. Maybe a new mechanic and it's based in that same world with the same character even. Or maybe it's just a brand new, massively sprawling game with a different idea, or maybe it's a top-down one. I need your guys' opinion on that because I'm very curious. Also, let me know what you think about Panic Button now porting Wolfenstein 2 Colossus. The new Colossus, were you happy with how Doom turned out on the Switch, and you're like, great, I'll just get Wolfenstein 2? Or were you a little disappointed with how it looked or how it ran, and you're hoping maybe somebody else would take the reins alongside of Machine Games to really get this thing to the finish line? I'm curious what you guys' thoughts on that. It was a very controversial topic when it first came out, was how Doom looked on the Switch. Some people liked it, some people did not like it at all. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.